Hey guys, quick little insert here. Before the video actually starts, I edited the audio for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and I didn't save like a dumbass, and my video editing software crashed on me, and I'm not editing the audio all over again. So here's the complete unedited audio that I did not intend for. That's going to be this video. So yeah, my bad, enjoy. I'll try not to do it again, but yeah, this video is not going to be as good as it was originally going to be. So yeah, anyway, here's the video.
Hey everyone, how are you? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Today we're doing the video where we're comparing manga and webtoon. Each one has their own platform, more so from a creator's perspective, since I've had experience making both of them. All I can say, or all I really want to say from a reader's point of view, is that I enjoy reading both, but generally manga tend to be higher quality story-wise, and they have a much bigger cultural impact up to this point, and that's about it. So from a creator's perspective, manga seems a lot simpler because there's no color, and in some ways it is. I've made a one-shot, I've storyboarded another one, I've done a bunch of random manga drawings here and there, and I've also, on the webtoon side, I've made Blood White, and the first major difference between the two that I've experienced is with storyboarding and writing. Now, paneling in manga is way more complex because you have to consider the page and panel flow. The composition is a lot more difficult. It's a lot harder to get everything right. You can get creative with webtoon paneling, but it's a lot more streamlined. There's a lower barrier to entry though for webtoon paneling because it's a lot easier. It's just scrolling. It's panel by panel. It's easier to kind of get the gist of it and get started versus manga, where you have to be thinking a lot more in terms of like where you're placing your panels, how you're laying them out, and all that. Pacing is also a lot easier on webtoon. That's my experience. Like, scripting seems a lot more viable for webcomics. I feel like making a manga, it's just easier to kind of storyboard and write at the same time. With webtoons, you can kind of write a script and take that and move to like the storyboarding phase, and it just feels more natural. Scripting manga is just you end up changing so much stuff later on anyway, and especially because of like the layout of the pages. Like, it just scripting, like, if you kind of need to be more loose with it, or it's just gonna be kind of a waste of time. And then the next aspect between the two, which would be inking for manga, and then the counterpart, which is like line art for webtoon. Manga is, in this aspect, much more difficult and time consuming, a lot more involved, because it's not just adding lines like webtoon. Like, yes, drawing clean lines and doing it well is hard work. It's a lot of work, but it's also filling in the black and all the cross hatching and thinking about like shading and lighting at a very early stage, and executing that very early, which is done much later on for webtoon, which I'll get to later. But in my opinion, inking takes more skill to pull off and do it well, and a lot of patience compared to just line art. But it's also more fun, in my opinion. I think Webtoon takes the cake in the easiness factor, like how hard it is, and then manga takes the fun factor point for this one. And then next phase, coloring. Obviously not really existent in manga, right? At this point, all that's left for manga is screen tones, which is basically the equivalent for this part of it. Webtoon's a lot more involved here because you gotta like color coordinate all of the characters. Usually you have like a palette for them in your program, and with screen tones it's really just, a lot of times it's just like one flat color just on the whole page, unless it's more detailed shading and stuff. But yeah, where am I at? I'm reading off a script for this video, by the way, so I'm like trying to figure the things out as I go. But yeah, unless you're trying to shade realistically with like gray values, like I've seen some manga that get really intricate with like the gray additions and all that, and also like the shading and lighting for Webtoon is a bit more involved at this stage, obviously, which is just more steps. Webtoon is just more steps. That's really one of the differences compared to manga. Yeah, it's pretty much just it as far as that stage. Backgrounds, that's the big one, especially for me. I'm not a big fan of backgrounds, partly because I'm not particularly good at them yet. Well, I can do them, but I kind of lack the patience for them right now because I don't really enjoy them, because I'm not like the best at them. But I think Webtoon backgrounds are significantly more difficult. I think it's easier to get realistic looking backgrounds with manga using like custom brushes and photo bashing and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, it's still difficult to draw backgrounds. It always will be. Especially like interior and architectural backgrounds, like at least for me, those are so hard for me to have the patience for. But Webtoon backgrounds take more work just because of the color aspect. And on top of that, in manga you can get away with not having backgrounds in panels, like especially like close-up shots and stuff. Like you can just have white in the background and no one's gonna bat an eye about there not being a background. Like no one's gonna care. In Webtoon, literally every panel has to have a background, including the ones that are like comedic and they just have like, you know, like something simple. I would still consider that like a background. Like with manga, there's a lot of panels where you can just leave it blank, leave it white, and be fine with it. Webtoon, you can't really do that. So it's a lot more time consuming, and the backgrounds themselves, where you actually have to like draw out the background shots, like far shots, establishing shots, they're just a lot more difficult in Webtoon. You know, imagine anime having just white backgrounds anywhere, or just for close-up shots. There's not very many scenes where that would actually work, and Webtoon kind of works the same way because it's colored. The last category, which I don't really have much to say about it, is dialogue. Now, speech bubble placement is easier for Webtoons because you can just put them above and below the panels. It's a lot more difficult for manga because, again, you gotta think about panel flow and also finding space on the page for the speech bubbles, and also so it's not covering up too much of the art. So dialogue is a lot more difficult in manga, I think. So overall, which is more difficult? To be honest, I think they're like the same difficulty, all things considered, just in different aspects. In different aspects, they're harder or easier in different aspects. Having more experience with webtoons or webtoon episodes myself means like I'm a bit more comfortable making webtoon episodes at the time, or at this moment. I want to be more comfortable with manga, especially with like backgrounds and stuff. That's what I really want to practice on. But yeah, I find manga to be more fun though, at least to me. And I think most of that is just because, well, inking is really fun, but also, like I said, I don't find backgrounds to be that fun, at least right now. And I just prefer manga. But Suko, you make a webtoon. Yeah, shut up. I know. I know. I'm in webtoon jail. I would say writing manga is more difficult. Even though I prefer manga, it is more difficult to write the manga. The earlier stages of making a manga are more difficult than making a webtoon. Finding a readership for manga in the West is harder than it is for a webtoon. But the process feels less draining just because I don't have to worry about backgrounds as much. That being said, my Blood White one shot, I kind of overdid it on the backgrounds because I didn't really think about that I could get away with not having to draw backgrounds all the time. But that was like a mistake I made, so yeah. The coloring process for webtoon is also very tedious sometimes. And in my opinion, my art style looks better in black and white. And I've had a lot of other people tell me that, and I agree. So, where am I at? My script is really long and cluttered, so I gotta like find where I'm at every time I scroll down. Anyway, that being said, like, as far as like preferring black and white drawing and manga work and all that, I actually really do enjoy like colored illustrations and stuff, but more so for like illustration stuff, like paintings and like super detailed stuff, and not really like sequential art like for comics, because of how tedious it is. Like, I just, doing colored stuff sequentially is just so much more draining. There's just so many steps to it. And manga is just like, I feel like when I get into manga again, it's gonna be like a shock kind of, because like I'm gonna be like done with like the inking and then add the screen tones, and I'm be like, okay, now on to the coloring, and like, wait, oh, I'm already done. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to doing eventually. Some of you might be wondering, if I prefer manga so much, then, why did I choose the webtoon route years ago? And for that, it's kind of a story time. Around that time I started drawing, which was around 2019, 2020, I'm not going to say it, 6 or 7 years ago. Webtoon was kind of at the peak of its popularity. The platform wasn't quite oversaturated like it is now. The stories there were more unique. Many stories from there were getting anime adaptations at the time. So as someone who wanted to create like their own story to eventually like become an anime adaptation, yeah, I know it's like a pipe dream. I'm not from Japan. The likelihood of that happening is very, very low, but someone's got to be the first to do it. I feel like a lot of you guys probably have the same dream. But yeah, as someone who wanted to make something like that could have that, it seemed like the only route for someone outside of Japan to really create an anime or manga style story and be successful. So that's kind of why I went that route. You know, there was a lot of press about Webtoon being the future of comics around that time, and the scrolling format was also new and exciting and appealing at the time. And then there was the call to action contest, which I entered. My entry was terrible. I was in 2022, by the way. My entry was terrible, but I entered, and it was like my first thing that I ever published, and it just made everything more enticing at that time to go that route. You know, fast forward 4 years later, and Webtoon just doesn't really feel like the future to me anymore. It hasn't really like lost any hasn't lost any popularity, but it hasn't really been gaining any either, and it feels like manga's gaining right now. In terms of like the amount of people over here that want to make it. So lost my spot on the script again. So the reason why it doesn't feel like the future to me anymore is kind of just the wasted potential of the platform. Like, it could have been like the start of the industry over here in terms of comics. Like, yes, it exists, but it's not having the kind of impact that like magazines in the West have. I think part of that is like the lack of success from a lot of the creators on Webtoon, other than like the super big ones. And even then, like, a lot of them are not getting like, unless they're like Korean manhwas, they're not getting any sort of like anime adaptations or anything. Like Unordinary, like the biggest action story on the platform that's not from Korea, it's been around for 10 years and it has no anime yet. Like, what is going on? That should have been out a long time ago. But yeah, the other thing is just the oversaturation. There's too much stuff that's like the same. They come out with like a new series, like, or multiple new series like every week, and they're all like the same genre every single time. They're just recycling the same stuff, so no one wants to read the new stuff, and then those people don't get anywhere. It's like, what's the point? And they also have a reluctance to actually like physically print any of the like stories that they have on the platform. Yes, they've printed stuff, but they don't do it very often, and I think physical media is like very, very important. And webtoons themselves are just not really made for that. They're made for vertical scrolling on a phone. Like, manga is mainly made for printing, and that's part of the reason why I also prefer it. Also, just general shady behavior from webtoon or webcomic platforms in general. Like, a lot of the big ones, like they don't pay creators well enough. They don't support them as well as they should. Yes, manga magazines in Japan aren't necessarily super great at that either. But I feel like just webcomic companies in general are just a little bit worse, just based on what I've observed. But really iffy with like the contract stuff too. Like, you know, I feel like a contract would be okay if like they guarantee for success, you know, as long as you put the work in, it would be fine. But then you sign a contract and then you get basically nothing from it, from all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into it. It's like what's the point of going down that route? I don't understand it. And yeah, it's just all those things adding up. And you take that and then you look at the manga industry in the West, and it's basically non-existent. So it's either you go the webtoon route and try your luck there, or you do manga and, you know, just walk in a blind, dark tunnel and just hope for the best, right? Unless you're like really good at marketing and you get picked up by a big publisher. Or enter contests where people will get eyes on your stuff, which, you know, that's about the best we got over here. And so to me, it was just like, I should just focus on whatever I feel like I feel at home with, like whatever I enjoy more, like what feels natural to me to actually make and adapt my story into. Like, should it be a webtoon or should it be a manga? And for me, manga just feels like the right thing for me to transition to. I drew in like traditionally in black and white for like the first 2 years that I drew. I wouldn't even be a digital artist, I don't think, if it wasn't for like me trying to do a webtoon. Actually, I don't know about that. I'd probably be doing digital, but I would have gotten into it much later than I did, which, you know, I guess I'm kind of grateful for that, because I really do enjoy doing like and learning how to do like colored illustrations and stuff. Like, that's something I want to be good at doing, regardless of whether I make manga or not. So yeah, that's kind of the plan right now, is to transition to making manga more. And regarding that, a lot of you who read Blood White are probably wondering, well, what's the plan with that then? I announced an arc a while ago and it started, and I've slowed down episode releases by a hell of a lot. And yeah, I'm kind of at the point where after episode 36 part 2, I don't know if this video is going to come out before or after the episode came out. Probably going to come out before, but I don't know. Anyway, I plan on making the Blood White episodes very simple, very like manga-fied, if that makes sense, but even like a sketchier version of that. I'll put like an example up on screen. It's not my art, but it's kind of like the idea that I'm going for. Which to some people might be a good thing, because a lot of people tell me they like my sketchier style, so we'll see. But I'll be able to pump stuff out faster. I don't want to abandon the webtoon, because I really love the story, and I know some people want to see what happens next. But yeah, that's kind of the idea right now. I really want to focus on the story instead of, you know, making the art all nice when it's not even going to be printed anyway. So like, my webtoon is not formatted for print at all. Like, I didn't take the precautions to do that, so I just want to focus on the story and move on to manga and try to print those and make those look good. spend my effort and patience on those instead. But I really do love Blood White, so I do want to finish it though. So excuse me. But yeah, that's about it. Yeah. Thanks for watching. See you later.